I've always reminded people this. If we're really going to do something that's never been done before, then we also have to do things that have never been done before. A lot of times in Korea, we get comfortable doing the same thing, but then you get the same outcomes. Hi, I'm Mike Kim, and I am the founder of the Korea Legacy Committee. I moved to Korea in 2015. I came here to join a startup, which is now well known as 배달의민족. And at that time, really, I didn't know much about Korea, but I absolutely fell in love with Korea. The culture, the people, and the young people really energized me. And so what was supposed to be 1 year has turned into 9 years. Sadly, Korea has the highest level of elderly poverty in the world. Nearly 50% of senior citizens currently living in Korea live below the poverty line. So our primary focus is to ensure every single elderly who needs a meal gets one. But the bigger picture, the kind of larger umbrella, is I say that we are a social justice movement. And what that means is, how do we take the energy of young people in this country and turn that into a culture of giving back? The reason we use the word legacy is actually very intentional. And so I genuinely believe now it is our turn to build our legacy for the next generation. It's kind of like a baton, and that generation gave it to us. Now it's our responsibility to take that baton, build a great culture so that the next generation has an even better Korea to thrive in. So when I first moved to Korea in 2015, it was January, so it was very, very cold. I will never forget when I went to Jamsil역, Jamsil Station. When I was walking down the steps, there was a 할머니 sitting there on top of cardboard. And she was not selling packs of gum, she was selling sticks of gum individually. She was so tired or probably so cold, she couldn't even lift her head up. But that image was seared in my mind. How in Jamsil, where they're building this beautiful, huge tower, could this 할머니 sit here? And when I saw her, I actually saw my own 할머니. Poverty is difficult for everyone, but for someone who is 80 or 90 years old, sitting on the streets, that is a huge social inequality. And so that's why specifically our organization is focused on elderly poverty. When I first moved to Korea, I just wanted to volunteer, and I was working at a startup at the time. And so I asked a few of my young colleagues, where do you volunteer? And so some of the main answers were either at their church or with their company. But there wasn't a young organization founded by young people to give back. What turned out to be small, actually young people really liked. And so that's kind of the how the Korea Legacy Committee was born, was really to organize these events to give back. And the way we execute this legacy is actually in two ways. One, we volunteer every single month, so we're figuring out ways to give back. But number two, we're also developing young leaders so we can do number one. So it's really a nice flywheel on how we execute that legacy. The organization in 2015 was 5 people, 5 friends. And now we are operating our own community kitchen. Our team is now 30 young people. We have 3 divisions, so we've grown quite a bit. So over the years, our events have clearly grown. When we first started, we would find a restaurant in Itaewon or Gangnam. We'd rent it out for maybe 2 hours because we had no money. And only maybe 50, 60 people came, and we were using, Facebook events to get people to come. But I think the word spread very organically that this is a party for good. I think the majority of people are coming because they're very passionate about giving back, but also they get to meet people who are like-minded, who also want to give back. And that community, I think, is the engine of our movement. Young people come, they meet other young people who have the same passions, they become friends. And so I think that's something very special, and I think that's why people continue to come. I think the greatest achievement we've had, and there have been many, but the one that stands out the most is when we actually launched Legacy Kitchen. As the founder, I have to be the guy that continues to believe in the vision. But I can be honest as well, and I've never opened or built a kitchen in my life. I had a lot of doubts myself. And I think a lot of the team members also had doubts. But when we cut the ribbon and we opened the kitchen, something changed in our movement. Something changed in the people. And that was, they believed. And I think that moment truly embodies what this movement is about. We had a huge dream. We worked hard. We never gave up, and we achieved. And I hope that that becomes a symbol of what we do moving forward. Now our events, one of our signature events, our annual gala, has nearly 300 to 350 people who come. So the scale is getting quite large. A lot of times, especially in Korea, I get the question, why do you guys do a black tie gala? I get a lot of responses that seems very American. Also, a lot of people say, hey, that doesn't seem to match your culture. You're about young volunteers, but the black tie gala seems like it's quite elite. We have a culture in Korea where we celebrate K-pop stars, idols, celebrities, Netflix stars. They go to beautiful black tie events and we celebrate them when they win an award. My question is, what are they doing that's more important than young people volunteering and saving the lives of elderly people? Korea has so many different hagwons, from math to physics to English, but I don't know of any hagwons that teach leadership. Are we teaching the young generation how to have courage under pressure? Are we teaching young people how to speak up against power? How to build a movement to fix the necessary things in the country? And so this year we kicked off a leadership summit, which I hope to grow every year. And we had a very diverse group of speakers, from lifestyle to food to IT, talking about AI, to investments, to just even politics. I think it's so important to develop young leaders in this country, because the ultimate goal of the Korea Legacy Committee is actually, I want to see my team members leave, because I want them to build their own movement, whether for women's rights, immigration. There are so many issues in Korea. My dream is that I hope some of the core members come to Korea Legacy Committee 2-3 years. They learn leadership, they learn how to build a movement, they learn how to fundraise, and then they go off and they build their own movement to fix another issue that will push Korea forward. And so for us, this leadership summit is a catalyst of how do we continue to graduate young leaders. So when I'm 80 years old, I hope there's 10,000 alumni and 10,000 movements pushing this country forward. I was born and raised in the United States, but obviously my DNA, I am 100% Korean. But building this with a Korean team, there's been many challenges, and part of that is cultural. A lot of the things that I propose, whether it's the gala or fundraising, are not common to most young Koreans. And so constantly in our team, we are debating. And usually it's like 1 versus a million. I'm kind of alone. But I've always reminded people this. If we're really going to do something that's never been done before, then we also have to do things that have never been done before. A lot of times in Korea, we get comfortable doing the same thing, but then you get the same outcomes. Our entire movement is about changing Korea. We want to evolve the culture. We want to empower young people. And so while it's incredibly challenging, my biggest goal is to constantly push. Now, it's not easy because people love comfort, but I think actually the reason we've come this far is because we have pushed and challenged the boundaries. Young people 9 years ago didn't know how to call their friends and ask for money. Now they're calling their friends and DM them Instagram saying, hey, you better give 5만 원, let's give. And so the culture is slightly changing. And I have no doubt that 10, 20, 30 years, what we're actually doing will actually become the norm. There are so many examples of where the team has pushed back and not believed in something. One is the chef night. There was one time where we were very ambitious and we wanted to invite the 정식당 chef. They doubted themselves. They said, how can we? KLC, we're so small, why would that chef come? My question is, why wouldn't he come? Why would you think a chef like that wouldn't want to help our organization? They still felt like they weren't enough. And so it reminded me that I had to coach and let them know, you are enough. And so us asking them is not a 부담, it is not offensive, it is actually an opportunity for them as well. And the worst thing that can happen is they say no. So I always tell the team, the hardest part about dreaming big is someone may say no, but they may say yes. And so there's absolutely no reason to limit ourselves. And that time we did get the 정식당 chef to come. You could see their confidence and courage grow that yes, we can do it. One factor that I think has played a monumental role, it's consistency. You know, everyone's busy in our core team. Everyone has a full-time job. But no matter what, no excuses, you have to make the meetings. It may seem simple, but that consistency of coming out and attending the meetings, number one, shows that you respect other people's time. And number two, if you're not consistent, there's absolutely no excuses. And so that benchmark, that rule, that internal value we have about consistency is probably why we've come this far. I think there's a couple reasons. One is, I think, naturally, they're very passionate about giving back. They care about society. They want Korea to do well. So that's number one. But number two, I also think it's because of the opportunity. The people they meet, the lessons they've learned, the responsibility they get. You know, most of these young leaders at their daytime job, they don't manage people, they don't have huge KPIs. And so this is actually an opportunity to grow their skills and for someone to believe in them and say, hey, you've never managed one person at your company, I want you to manage 8 people here. That's a huge responsibility. It's difficult, but I think they find not just volunteering success, but career success here. And we have some great examples of where some of our young leaders in their career have changed because of the things they've learned in our organization. At our events, they're meeting people from all different parts, whether it's entertainment, politics, tech. They get to learn new things that they wouldn't get to learn at their company. And so it's just opportunity. And I think that opportunity is kind of their reward in a sense for giving back. Probably one of the most challenging and hardest things of building this movement was actually officially registering the organization in Korea. The paperwork and the bureaucracy to register a nonprofit took us almost 24 months, 2 years. And I was so frustrated that when I came to the Asanna눔 Foundation to ask, how do you register a nonprofit in Korea? They immediately guided me to a professional who actually within a matter of months figured it out for us. And so something that took us 2 years, paperwork, back and forth, applying, getting denied, applying, getting denied. After a couple months working with the Asanna눔 Foundation, we were able to achieve our status. We can accept donations more. Because of that, we can scale across Korea. And so that was pivotal in our growth. I think the bigger vision is how do we scale this movement across Korea? A lot of times things are always congregated in Seoul, but there are young people everywhere, from Busan, Ulsan, Gyeongju, Incheon. And so we've started to scale a little bit by going into Incheon and Chuncheon. But the goal is, how do we make sure that there's a KLC chapter in every single city in Korea? In every single city in Korea, there's some elderly who needs a meal. And there's also a young people with a dream. And so if we can match and converge these two people, we have KLC magic. Ironically, I actually think it's me leaving and stepping out. There is a role that I have to play now to continue to develop the organization, develop the young leaders, but I actually shouldn't be at the helm at the top for very long. My ultimate hope is that my role actually becomes smaller and smaller over the years and someone takes in that role. We started out as a small group of 3 people volunteering once a month. And you know what? If we never grew, and that's all we did for 9 years, that would be enough as well. That's still something. And so for a lot of young Koreans, I think there's this desire or belief that you have to do something big or very 멋있어. It has to have many Instagram followers and you have to have 연예ins who believe in you. No. Anything that you do to give back matters. Whether someone gives 1억 or someone gives 1,000원, it's the same thing. Because the action is what matters. For those young leaders, those young change makers, I hope they realize, don't measure yourself on how big you are. Measure yourself on how consistent you are. If you go out every single month and just give 1 hour back, that's much better than doing nothing. And so that would be my piece of advice. Every single month, we're finding out some problem. The water is leaking from Legacy Kitchen. We can't sell tickets. How do we fix? And so they come to me and say, what should we do? And my only question back is, what do you think we should do? And in that moment, they realized Mike is not the answer. They always had the answer, but no one ever empowered them to say, whatever you choose, I'll back you. And so I think the energy and culture of our movement is we are empowering young people to make the decision and to live with it. And even if it fails, pivot and try again.